Welcome to Publishing Power. This is Joellen, and I am with Randy Peyser today. Randy pitches books to top literary agents and publishers, and she works primarily with first-time authors. Her clients' books have been featured in Oprah Magazine, Time Magazine, on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, in airport bookstores, in the Office Max and FedEx office stores, on Hallmark TV, and in other prominent media outlets. Some have received six-figure book deals, which is what we all want. And Randy is the author of the Write a Book program, Crappy to Happy, as featured in the movie Eat, Love, Pray, which is quite amazing, and The Powerful Miracle Thinking. Welcome, Randy.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, us too. I met you at the Book Expo this year, and I just think it's great what you're doing out there. And I just wanted to get your insight into how to put your book and how to do all those magical things that get us on the bestseller list, etc. So can you tell me what topics are hot and what's not?
Okay, what's selling right now are a lot of books on human trafficking is very, very big. So you think about what's in the media.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a book last year that I edited and I pitched it to a publisher called Slave, a human trafficking survivor finds life. Phenomenal story. It's the book came out this past year, and there are 3 Hollywood movie producers considering it for film. So think about what's happening in the media. If you can be current with what's happening, that's really important. One of the things, the problems that I see is that people often are writing a market that's really glutted. For example, weight loss, relationships. Well, there are endless and endless and endless books on these topics. So what does it take to get the kind of book deal that you want? You need to bring something that's like your own secret sauce. There's a conversation that's already happening. Publishers are very savvy and so are readers. So what is it that you can bring to the table, to the conversation that's already happening, that's really going to enhance what publishers are looking for? So every single year, like you mentioned this book expo, it's called Expo America. And I call this, I'm going to put little air quotes here, the feeding frenzy for the publishing industry in the United States.
Right.
So there are 3 huge book fairs in the world. There's the Frankfurt Book Fair in Germany, the London Book Fair in the UK, and Expo America, typically in New York, once a year. This is really the feeding frenzy, and it's where I go every single year and sit with all these agents and the top publishers and pitch. And so every single year there's a different buzzword that I just hear, and I don't know how it gets through osmosis in the airwaves, but I want to share with you, and this is really, really critical for anyone writing nonfiction. What I heard this year, and actually last year as well, consistently, what I'm hearing that publishers are looking for are, now get this, outcome-driven titles and outcome-driven content. And so what this means is I was sitting on a Zoom video call with one of my clients with a McGraw-Hill acquisitions editor. Acquisitions editors are the people who are basically the ones who are going to say, oh, I love the book. I'm going to pitch this to my editorial team. We're going to pitch it to the pub board. And these are the people who are making that frontline decision about whether this book is a yes or a no. And so I'm sitting with this acquisition on Zoom, just like this, but sitting with this acquisitions editor from McGraw-Hill, and she said, you know, not only are they looking for outcome-driven titles, but they want content to lead the reader in practical steps from point A to point B. So that book isn't just like not broad picture. Don't go for broad picture editorializing opinions. They're not interested in that. Take a reader specifically from point A to point B throughout that book with steps or whatever it takes to help that reader actually achieve some goal. And you have a potential winner.
Wow. That's quite amazing. That's quite insight for everyone out there writing. You need a lot of sales tool to sell a manuscript to the publisher. Can you tell us a little bit more about what tools you're using there?
Yes. You know, I tell people there's 2 parts to the conversation about getting a traditional publisher. One part is about your content. You've got to get the content right. It has to be positioned correctly. We could speak about that in a little bit. The other part, though, what you're talking about, Joellen, is what I call the business of publishing. Because people giving out these book deals from the publishers, it's not just one person in a little mom and pop operation very often, unless you're going with a smaller publisher. The kinds of publishers I'm dealing with, you know, the Penguin Random House, McGraw-Hill level of publishers, whether it's Mind, Body, Spirit, Hay House, or any of them, what they're looking for are real numbers. And I want to give you an example of what real numbers they're looking for. I had one project I was pitching just when I saw you, Joellen, at this past show. I was pitching this project. It was for a business book, and the man had 2 LinkedIn profiles. One profile had 10,000 followers for his company. The other profile had 1,000 followers for his personal. 3 top agents who I pitched that project to individually in separate meetings, but they all said the exact same thing. When I mean exact same words. They said, delete the personal profile. The numbers are too small. That was shocking to me. You know, to me, 1,000 people, it's 1,000 people. Why would you want to delete that? It's like, no, you have to build real numbers. So what publishers are looking for in terms of real numbers, they tell me different things. And everyone always asks me, well, what numbers do I need? So for example, Hay House. Every Mind, Body, Spirit author who comes to me says, can you get me Hay House? Well, let me tell you exactly what Hay House wants. Because this is very helpful information for you to grow that publicity platform, which is the big buzzword in the publishing industry, isn't it? Platform. Basically means eyeballs. How many eyeballs do you have on you? How many people are following you? How many people are you engaging with? Now, I had never heard this before, but when I was meeting with the VP publisher of Hay House New York last month, this is what she told me. She said, we're looking at of course, at all the numbers related to a person's social media. The only number that the author really has total and complete control over that is not controlled by an algorithm anywhere is their personal email list. But they don't stop there. They're not looking just at your personal email list because you can have hundreds of thousands of people on it. They're looking at the open rate. Yeah. This is important for you to know. So other publishers, for example, Andrews McNeil. A lot of people, they're going, who's Andrews McNeil? They don't recognize the name. You will recognize the name Calvin and Hobbes, Doonesbury, and Garfield. So they're, a major publisher. And they approached me about 3 years ago to be an acquisitions editor for their company. Eventually they hired in-house, and that was fine with me because I really didn't want to move to Kansas City, Missouri. So it worked out. But in that interview, I got to ask them, what is it you look for? Yes, social media numbers, all your social media numbers are important. However, they gave me a piece of information I hadn't heard before. They said, we're looking for the amount of engagement the author has with the audience, not just the numbers they're collecting. So your numbers are important, and so is engagement. So how do you create more engagement? Ask questions. More people will respond to questions than they will to statements. Start asking questions. Now, another thing that I found really interesting is that I was sitting with Angelina Jolie's literary agent, and I was pitching a project to him verbally, and he kind of looked away, and he went like this, and he pulled out his cell phone, and I thought, is he gonna just interrupt me and be answering, a call? No, he was actually looking up the person I was pitching on YouTube and looked at it and said, oh no, his numbers are way too small. So these top agents, they're picking up their phones, and so are the publishers. They will look you up on Google. You're going to do searches. They are looking at your Facebook page, at your LinkedIn profiles, wherever you're getting visible. So here's some pieces of advice for you. Stay professional, stay positive, spell things correctly. Because when you're dealing with editors and publishers, they're like, me, we always have our red pen in our hands all the time. We're just constantly editing in our head, and professionalism counts. I've seen people like on my, website, or like author OneStop, or for my Facebook page, and they'll say things, I've been looking for a publisher, but I haven't found anybody. And they're coming to me and they'll put a frowny face. Well, they don't know that my literary agents I work with, they're my friends too. And they're going to be on my Facebook page. And if they see frowny faces, is that going to be attractive to them? No. You never know who's looking at your content online. So keep it professional, spell things correctly, stay positive, stay upbeat. And I'd say though, that's some like little outside, insider advice. Right. I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I mean, they want you to do all the work now, and it better be professional and clean and beautiful from the start. That's for start. That's for.
So yeah. So when you say they want you to do all the work, I also want to talk about difference between self-publishing and getting a traditional publisher. A lot of people, they're not sure which way to go. I like both methods. I've done both methods with my own different books, and I like them for different reasons. So I want people to be clear on their reason, especially if you don't have enough people eyeballs on you yet. You still may want to work to achieve that. You may want to go self-publishing and not worry about it. I want to just clarify the difference very, very simply in very general terms. So in very general terms, I tell people, you want to make more money for book, self-publish. If you want speed to market, self-publish. It'll be much quicker to get your book out. You will make more money per book. If you're going for national attention, you want media, you want to be on bigger stages, this is your career and you are growing a career, definitely try for a traditional publisher. Why? Media will respect you more. You can be seen as a go-to expert constantly. And I've seen magic and miracles happen through traditional publishers that you can't even believe what happened. I'll give you some examples. My first book was called Crappy to Happy. Small Steps to Big Happiness Now. So I went through I got a publisher. It took me 4 years. This was many years ago to get my first publisher. It wasn't until I had lots of eyeballs on me that all of a sudden I got a publisher interested, but I did as soon as I had those eyeballs on me. And I'm sitting in a movie theater, the opening night of the movie Eat, Pray, Love. There's a bookstore scene before Julie Roberts goes on her big venture to Europe and Asia. She's in the self-help section of a bookstore. The book she actually picks up off the shelf, the self-help section, is Crappy to Happy. Holds it up. It's a big picture of, there's pigs on my front cover. And gets a big audience laugh. She brings it to the register. They show the cover again. They get like a second laugh. And I had no idea they were even going to use it. I'm just sitting in a movie theater, opening night of Eat, Pray, Love. There were a circle of 8 friends who went out to dinner. Hey, let's go out to the movie. There's my book in a major movie.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
and just like my authors who have wound up in Time Magazine, on Hallmark TV, all these book awards, all kinds of things that have opened up for them. Like 2 of my authors were featured in FedEx stores. Like FedEx bought 3,000 copies of their books nationally. How many books does FedEx office have in their store? Like 15, 10, a handful of books. 2 of them at the same time were my authors' books.
Wow.
So
That's
those
great.
kinds of opportunities for book sales, sometimes for foreign rights, for audiobook rights, a lot of that is negotiated in a contract, where just a lot more doors can open for you. You have to do publicity yourself on both sides, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely do. You need to be a partner on this publishing journey. I tell people, you want to make more money per book, self-publish. Speed to market, self-publish. So it's very, very clear. If this is for your career, definitely try for a traditional publisher. When I have my authors in airport stores, traditional publisher.
Right. So, I mean, that
Yeah.
brings up another thing. When you're doing self-publishing, or when you're trying to get your big book and you're trying to get those endorsements, maybe you don't know famous people. How do people get those onto their book covers and that? What's the recommendations there?
I have a secret formula for endorsements, and this is how it goes. It's a question in which you ask yourself, what is it I can give, rather than what can I get? Because all of these famous people who you might want to go after, everybody's coming at them, constantly, help me, endorse my book. It's typical when you're asking for an endorsement to write the endorsements yourself. Because people don't have time to read your book, truthfully. So if you want to go after a big name person, they have an event where you can volunteer. Well, what can you do to get on their radar and be giving to them? What can you give? Rather than what can I get? What can I get?
Right.
So that's a critical piece. Another thing is, notice like the amount of people who you might attend their webinars, or you have friends who are writing books. You can endorse one another's books.
Right.
And the way you can do that, let's say if the other person doesn't have their book out yet, they can be under their endorsement. The name could be your name, author of the upcoming book. Then just put the title there, and that works just as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Those are some ways to get some endorsements. And I wanted to say something else about self-publishing before we totally, we've left the subject, but I think this is really important. There's a lot of people come to me when they've already self-published their book and they want it to go bigger. Here's catch. If your book hasn't sold a lot of copies, then you're a bad investment from a publisher's perspective. I want to give you the real number as I heard it from 3 top agents in New York when I was sitting with them recently, and I had one self-published book. I think this book is going to do really, really well. The author has sold about 1,500 copies in about 7 months. I think these are good numbers. But what did I know? Let me tell you what the agents told me. When I brought this book to them, 3 agents independently said the exact same thing. They said an author needs to have sold 10,000 books before a publisher will consider it. So if you're looking for a traditional publisher, don't self-publish your book first. It's so much harder now to get the book deals. Why? Because the competition is so high. I was sitting with one publisher who told me he gets 10,000 submissions a year. That's about 5 years ago. Can't even imagine what he gets now. Doing simple math, that's like 860 manuscripts a month. And it's my job, and what I do is get my people to the top of that pile. That's what I do. Right. So, but I'm giving people like real numbers. Don't be discouraged. We have ways that we can work numbers and build followings and things like that. This is the truth of what they're looking for.
Wow. I mean, 10,000, that's a huge number.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's like this particular book, I was pitching it to this one agent, and she was like so disappointed. She goes, "Oh my God, I could have brought this book, when Random House," and she was named Simon and Sister, all these different books. Why did this person self-publish? She was so like heartbroken about it, but there's nothing she said that she could do.
Wow.
Because who makes the buying decisions? They don't. The agent does it. It's the publisher. So that's why we're trying to meet what their requirements are. Help the authors get there. So if you're interested in a traditional publisher, please don't self-publish first. As you can sell copies in a year.
Right. So, I mean, is this the biggest mistake, or are there other ones that we need to be looking out for?
I'll share with you some mistakes that people make in terms of their writing in general. A lot of times people they're doing things, well, one, they're doing things out of sequence. They're sending something to an agent before something's been really polished, edited, and it's really ready to go. Or they're sending a query letter without having the proposal completely polished, ready, and edited and ready to go, or even knowing what a proposal is.
Right.
So they're doing things a little bit out of sequence, or they think that the agent is going to help with their book proposal or edit their book, and that's not the way it works anymore. Just don't. The agents don't have time to do that. Agents are here to pitch the project. When I send something to an agent, stellar, it's ready to go. We've analyzed it, we've edited it. I've polished or written the book proposal. I mean, I'm a master of the proposal. I did a proposal for this that just got a 6-figure deal. And in fact, McGraw-Hill, acquisitions editor, on our meeting, she said, "Who wrote this book proposal?" She goes, "It contains absolutely every specific detail I need to present this project to my team." And I said, "Because, I understand after selling so many books, pitching them and selling them, I understand what they're looking for."
That's great. I mean, there's certain things that you just can't do without other people. You don't know what you don't know. And I tell people again and again, you just don't know what you don't know. So there's so much you can do. And then the other part, you've really got to team up with the experts who can save you time and money, but mainly frustration and keep the hope alive, because it doesn't change the path. It still takes a long journey, but to have somebody holding your hand and they've been down this path before is a really big difference on how you feel and how much energy you have when it actually happens, how to handle the next step, because don't burn yourself out on the journey. That's right. It's a long way.
It's a very important point. You're making a very important point. And I want to share something, some feedback I got from one of the top agents who I pitched to.
Okay.
When I was sitting and pitching her like a couple of years ago, she was really excited about a project. So as soon as I got back home to my desk, I sent her the project, because I'm there pitching verbally. Because they don't want to take, when I'm at these shows, they don't want to, agents and publishers, they don't want to take the manuscripts there. It's too much to, schlep around. Right. So I sent it to her and I didn't hear anything back. I followed up via email and I didn't hear anything back. And I followed up again and I didn't hear anything. And so when I set my appointment with her for the next year and I got together with her, I said, "You were really excited about this project. What happened?" And she said, "Randy, I'm getting like 1,000 emails a day. I can't even keep up. Just can't keep up. So when you have something for me, text me. It's like, that just shows you, the amount of overwhelm that's happening with people. And thank God I have 19 years of relationships built with agents and publishers where I can text somebody. So for example, if you or one of, the people you're helping, they wrote a query letter and they wrote this whole page describing everything. And I might just text someone and say, Linda, I've got a hot one for you. The conversation is happening at a whole other level because the agent Linda, who just did the 6-figure deal for my client in a bidding war between multiple publishers and negotiated that, she knows if I say I have a hot one for her, that it's hot. Right. She's going to trust me because of what I'm going to send. Very discerning, like we start out with an analysis of every manuscript because I want to know, I think this is potentially sellable. I'm not going to, something if I don't think there's a real strong possibility for sale.
Right. So what are the things that, what do you absolutely have to do to make your book stand out? When I bring it into you, I know what you're doing. You're doing what I don't, but how do I make it stand out from the beginning as an author?
From the beginning, what can you say about your book? If you were going to start your first sentence of your book proposal with these words, my book is, using your title, but not the words my book, but my book is the first book too. Fill in the blank. If you have a first book positioning, that's really, really strong.
Okay. That's very strong.
That's one of the strongest things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of problem solution, the problem out there is whatever the out there is in your world.
Right. Right.
Of
course.
What are the pain points that people are dealing with that you can absolutely help with?
Yeah. That's true. You're in discovery mode then. You're the explorer who landed Antarctica. So that's great.
I'll share with you, I wrote a couple of books. I wrote Happy to Happy. I wanted to learn how to be happy in this lifetime. It wasn't like I knew how to do it. I wrote a book called The Power of Miracle Thinking because I wanted to learn about miracles and is there a secret sauce to miracles, regardless of religious or spiritual background. So I'm an explorer when I'm writing a book. I don't know the answers. I'm on a journey to find out the answers. And I interview people, I get my own ideas, my own wisdom collates with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the way that I explore topics.
Wow. That's great.
It's just a different way of doing it. I'd like to share a little bit about memoir because a lot of people are writing memoir. Everybody wants to write their life story. I feel like everybody's story is really important, equally important, because our lives are important to us. And usually people are writing memoir because they've overcome some very difficult, horrific, or horrible experience, and they want to empower others who are going through that journey of loss or whatever the tragedy or whatever the experience. The problem is that everyone's writing their memoirs, or a lot of people. And so, I was at a conference where the CEO of the conference is my client. She invited me to come to her conference, and there's like 400 women in the room. 395 of them are writing their memoirs and their abuse memoirs.
Oh.
So while your words are important, you have to think of it think of your book in terms of reader, not from your own perspective. So the way you do that, you have to answer the question in the reader's mind, what's in it for me? One of the best ways to write a memoir, if you really want to sell it, because it's one thing to tell your story and have a cathartic experience, which is great. I think that's awesome. Do it. But if you can add steps after each of your stories, they're either insights or action steps, you're going to have a much stronger positioning for your book and better sales. So for example, when I wrote Crappy to Happy, my first book,
yes,
I put 4 steps after each of my stories, and they were called 4 Steps to Happiness Now. When I wrote The Power of Miracle Thinking, and I interviewed all these people at all these different kind of miracles, and there are 3 miracle thinking tips following each story based on those particular stories, and action steps or insights based on those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So when people approach me with memoir, which happens like constantly because the market is so flooded with people writing memoir, my first thought in my own mind, is this a book that's all about me or what's in it for me from the reader's perspective? So don't think of your book from your own perspective. If you want sales or if you want a traditional publisher, you got to think of it from the what's in it for me. So for example, the original title of my book was From Crappy to Happy, A Journey Out of the Pits and Into the Fruit of Life. I thought, that's really witty. However, when the marketing department of the publisher got a hold of the book, it already bought it, it took off the from, away with the preposition, it became crappy to happy, small steps to big happiness now. Why? Because it answered the question in the reader's mind, what's in it for me? The book became one of their seasonal bestsellers, which was great. It ran for like 5 years.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, those are big mistakes that you learn about and you figure out on the way. So,
I'd like to also address, if I may, writing mechanics themselves.
Yes.
So
please.
the things that I see repeatedly where authors are making mistakes are, one, and I know these are things you would know, Joellen, but like weak words. Was, got, had, have, made, do, did, went, go. I mean, these are very common little weak words. It doesn't mean you can't use these words. But try to use more interesting language.
Right.
Not stilted though. Like when I'm editing or I'm writing something myself, mumble it to myself. And I'm just sitting here and I'm a crazy person. It's a good thing I'm doing this at my desk in my own room, but I'm, this is stories have you, so I just, I'm just like, I'm hearing the dialogue in my mind, so it doesn't sound stilted. It has to sound just, easy flow, but use better language. And watch out for repetitive words or repetitive phrases. Like, I was working on a book and all of a sudden appeared. All of a sudden, I was like, everything is a crisis, all of a sudden. Or, I had one last year where a person used the word thus constantly. Well, we don't even use that in our language anymore. Maybe we're in a courtroom. I don't know. I don't even know they even use it in a courtroom. So just notice repetitive words. And then the other thing that I notice is that people tend to have pet words or pet phrases. There was one book I was working on where the woman was having the things that were happening in her life are causing her, like she was vomiting, puking. And so I had her do a search on the words, like vomit, all these words, stomach, throw up, and see, just change out that language, smooth it out. We don't want to keep reading the same thing over and over. So just notice, if you have phrases or words. Those are just, 3 little mechanics. Before anything is submitted anywhere, have it edited,
Right. I mean,
just something, you do.
That's what we do.
You want to be professional as possible. The competition is so high,
What did they say? It was like 1 million books were self-published last year, something like that?
Yeah.
Was some unbelievable number, having been around for over a decade myself. It's just, wow, are we really there? But yeah, it's just.
If you are going to self-publish, one of my rules about self-publishing, I have 2 rules. One is have your book edited, which you certainly can do, and no cheesy covers. I mean, you can look at books and you go, oy vey, oh my God, it's like, what are they thinking? And one of the things that I'm hearing now is that you're putting your face on the cover of your book, unless you're famous, that book's not going to go. It's not going to go into the media. You'll see it as the big business card. It's fine if you want to do that kind of book. It's not going to go. For example, I do a program called Bedside Reading where we place books in 5-star luxury hotels right by the bedsides of influencers, in these top hotels all over the U.S. We won't take any books that have the author on the cover unless they're a really famous personality.
Right.
Just won't take them.
No, I mean, it totally makes sense. So what are the biggest questions publishers ask before they make a buying decision on the books that they want to get there?
So the things they're asking themselves are, do we have another book in our pipeline like this? Is your book differentiated enough? That's really, really important. Like when we do book proposals, one of the sections is called the competition. We have to show different books that are already out there that yours would be comparable to. And years ago, this was really tough to do. I had to go into a Borders or a Barnes & Noble and find the shelf your book would sit on and see what other books were there and, and start reading through them. Now, Amazon makes this process so easy. You just plug in some keywords related to your book, find some books that are current and relevant, that are by really good publishers, not like Self-Published, CreateSpace, or Amazon Digital Publishing, because the publishers don't consider those comparable books. So just, see if you can find some books, see what those books are about, and then you write how yours differs from that. You don't even have to buy those books or read them. You're just reading the text in their editorial description. And I tell people just copy and paste their text. The title of the book, the publisher, your publisher, the author's name, copy and paste their text, and then write your text underneath it. So like a paragraph about them, 3 or 4 sentences about you,
Right.
and show how your book differs. Sometimes if somebody hasn't written a word of their book yet, I'll say, I want you to start with your competition section.
Right.
We want to make sure that you're really differentiated if you want a traditional publisher. So what do publishers ask? Are you addressing something their audience needs? I tell people, this book you want to write, and a book a publisher's going to buy, and a reader's going to buy, they're the same book. So, I love to do a positioning consultation with people, or, anybody who's coming to me. I'm going to be looking at that book. Is this the book a publisher going to want to buy?
Right.
That's our goal.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal there. And what's going to be the difference? What's going to make it all?
Right.
So when they come to you, because I mean, obviously you're one of those people that you definitely want to get on their radar. How do you select the people that you're dealing with? I mean, obviously quality and book, but do you have a process here? How does this work for somebody?
Yeah. So my process is, let's say, you've edited the book. We're going to read it. So I have a team of editors who work for me who've all worked for publishers.
Mm-hmm.
They've edited many books that have sold to the big publishers. Because when I assembled my team, which I did years ago, my people have been working with me for years. I just wanted cream of the crop, just top editors who really understand what publishers buy, because that's really the differentiator.
Right.
And so we're going to do an analysis. We're going to look at the manuscript in a Word document, and comments in the comments are like, are there any places where you've lost a publisher because of something in that book, or is the writing strong enough? I mean, we're going to be analyzing this book, or are examples missing, or whatever we feel that needs to happen for this book to rise up. It might be fine, I don't know. That's usually where we start, with an analysis. And I rely on all my editors to tell me, is this book strong enough for me to pitch? Right. If it is, then, I can help the author. We'll do the proposal, and I can go pitch.
Right. Then the magic.
Which is my fun. I love to pitch. I love to get people book deals. That's joy for me.
Don't we all?
I know, but I'll share with you, what's really important to me, and this is my guarantee for everyone: I will never waste anyone's time or their money. I am not about that at all. I'm passionate about helping people get their book deals. It's got to be the right book. Right. I have to believe it's sellable.
Right. Well, that's amazing. Amazing. And so you've got everything set up here, and I think we got a lot of great insight. Your website is called OneStopcom, so they can learn a little bit more about that. Tell us a little bit about what they're going to find there, and what's our next step if we.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So Author One Stop, the one is spelled out O-N-E, AuthorOneStop.com. So I help people find agents and publishers depending on the book. Usually I'll take fiction to agents, and usually I will take nonfiction directly to publishers. So I pitch books to mind, body, spirit publishers, business publishers. I've sold paranormal fiction, young adult, children's, just this wide variety. I've had historical fiction, literary fiction under contract with agents, and just this wide variety of books. And so the services that we offer are analysis, in your book, editing if it's necessary, proposals, and pitching to agents and publishers. And I pitch live and I pitch via email all year long. There are 2 main industry events that I go to live. And, where I've preset my appointments in advance, and I'm sitting with, 25 different publishers and pitching. This is my fun. It's really my fun.
That's great. It's great. Well, I encourage everyone to please reach out to Randy. She's got the ability to pitch. I was impressed by her energy. I met some of your authors there. That was also very exciting, and they had great things to say about getting their book out there. And it's a very exciting journey, but you do need the right guide to get you to the right space. and they need to have that experience behind them to get you where you want to be and to evaluate if you're going to make it. So to save all that time and energy. So thank you, Randy. It's so great. Is there any last words you want to share with our
Sure. Yes, I'd
authors
love
out
to.
there?
I feel like the most valuable thing that I can give anyone is my time. So, if anyone comes from you and they'd like to know, is this a book that I think is potentially sellable?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to speak with anyone, like 15, 20 minutes, my time.
That's
As long as
great.
I'm available, I'm happy to. I travel quite a lot because I pitch quite a lot and I speak a lot. But as long as I'm available, I'm happy to speak with people.
That's great. All right. Well, everyone, reach out to Randy. Stop by the author One Stop. That's ONE, OneStop.com, author One Stop. And thank you for joining us. And I'm sure we'll have more questions, and I will send them on their way to you as our authors respond here. And thank you for joining us today at Publishing Power.
Welcome. Thank you.